I've been using nail art transfers for a while now. They make for pretty good graffiti and logos on machines or stickers on cars. And it was whilst I was buying another batch that I thought I should look into what other nail art and beauty products can transfer over to the modelling world. In this video I'm going to try them on a few different surfaces and see which ones are plausible for future use. So this is my haul. It's mostly nail art stuff, but I'm going to start with these press-on temporary tattoos because they're closest to what started me off down this little rabbit hole. The first test was on this old toy multi-story that I've been converting into a building for sci-fi or post-apocalyptic gaming. Luckily, I looked up the instructions on how to put these on before using them because they're not the same as water slide decals. The transfers themselves are tacky. You press them against the surface and then you soak the paper backing for it to slide off. The next thing to do was to test them on plastic. Luckily I've got a spare body that I was never going to build up and I thought I'd try them on that. And yeah, it worked again really well. They're supposed to go on skin, so I imagine they'll work fairly well on curved surfaces. Possibly not so great on compound curves, but then water slide transfers don't always work that well on those. The next thing to test were the acrylic paint pens. These are, let's face it, quite common now, so the real test will be between these cheap nail art ones and some modelling specific ones and ones I can get from an art shop. However, I did have some fun making a mess of a tattoo stencil and then doing a little bit of graffiti. They're also good for picking out silver and gold details on car trim, but I didn't get footage of that, so let's move on to the next thing. These little dots and rectangles of reflective foil are going to be great for adding texture to various builds. They may even work in mirrors in some cases, but they do have a limited set of sizes. To pick them up, I'm using a wax-tipped rhinestone pen, which is really useful for these smaller items, getting them into place and not dropping them on the floor or all over the modelling table. The hollow metal tip at the other end is supposed to have clay or wax pushed into it for even more precise picking and placing, but I was using it just by itself to move things around once they were very close to where they should be. I wanted to test the wax pen with something a bit larger, so I broke out a figure and decided to see if any of the little bits that were going on as details would be picked up by it. Didn't work on the head. That was either too large or didn't present a large enough flat surface, but the little bags and packs it worked with really well. This is definitely a useful tool, and by the time this video goes up there should be a few of them available to buy from the Spinny World shop. After watching a few nail art videos, I was ready for the next set of items on the list. This I've seen described as a number of things. We'll go with mirror powder or chrome powder. Needed to lay down some of the appropriate gel, set it with my UV torch. I waited until it started to go and look a little bit matte, and then loaded up the dabber with the chrome powder and pressed it in. Depending upon how you do this stage and what you top it off with, you'll get different finishes. You can get a rough finish, a smoother finish, coat it over with another layer and get a nice chromy sheen on it. What I would do in future is, after I've laid the varnish down, I'd lift the masking tape because I pulled a bit off the corner. This is definitely an interesting finish, but it is a bit thick to stick on model cars. Maybe with a little bit of work and some more tweaking, I can definitely incorporate it into paints and builds. But I think it's more likely to end up on sci-fi and robots. Nail foil is probably going to be better for finishes that will work really well on a car because it is super thin. This one uses a slightly different type of gel. Lay it down, hit it with the UV light, and then very gently place the foil over it and press it down. I got a few of these silicone tipped pens for rubbing this down. I found them quite soft. I don't know if they'll have any other uses beyond smoothing out your nail foil, but I'm going to look into that in the future. Once you're happy that you've got your foil down, very carefully peel it off. This is another one where I think I'll be laying down the gel and then peeling off the masking before applying the finish. This batch of foil is fairly boring and monotone, but there are some really impressive holographic ones that I will be using on some sci-fi builds coming up. These etched plates are for laying down stamping gel, which again is another different type of gel. I tried using the initial nail gel that I'd used for the first batch of chrome powder, and it did not work with these, so I had to wait until I got a tube of the embossing gel. You squeeze it over the plate, wipe it down very carefully using one of these plastic squeegees to make sure that it's all in place and you're only really picking up the stuff from inside the pattern. Then the silicone stampers pick it up and place it onto your surface. Now, depending upon the colour of your stamping gel, you can leave it at that, or you can then apply the mirror powder. Possibly you could apply the nail foil. I haven't tried that. That's another job for the future. This worked fairly well on the plastic and really worked very well on the roof of a Hot Wheels car, because that's about the maximum area one of these silicone stamps will cover. Traditional applicators for the glitter powder are single use and disposable, and I don't really agree with that. So I got a silicone applicator which you can clean off. To do that, I needed some of the sticky blotting paper, which comes on a roll in this rather convenient holder, and you can clean off the applicator and any of the other silicone parts like the gel stamps. You can clean them off using this after finishing, and then once it's all covered up with glitter and ink, peel it off and throw it away and move on to the next one. This has been a fascinating experiment, and I genuinely have found some things I will be using in the future on builds. Definitely going to be using the acrylic pens, but I'm probably going to start buying ones from art shops and looking into some of the recent releases that are specific to modelling. The wax rhinestone pencil is quite useful. I've got to get into the habit of using that on smaller parts on builds, just because I drop so much stuff. The temporary tattoos, also definitely going to use those in much the same way as I've been using the nail art decals all this time. They're going to slide onto various builds. If I ever get a van that I'm doing good old 70s 80s style and I want a mural on the side, I'll probably start looking for some of the temporary tattoos as the way to do that. I have a few builds coming up where I think that the nail foil is definitely going to be usable. Couple of robots, because the holographic nail foils are very cool, and I want to have that extra special depth and effect from those. The chrome powder, I can see myself using it, not on a vehicle. I think I will be using it for interesting finishes on Gundam bits. As for the other stuff, the silicone sculpting pens, like I said, the tips are a bit soft right now for anything that I can think of, but they're there. I'm going to keep testing them on other things and see if they're any use for anything at all. The stamping templates and gels, they're nail size, so there's not a lot of things that I would normally build that they'd go on, but I'm keeping them there as an interesting option for decoration. The little bits of mirrored foil are absolutely staying in the inventory of stuff I can use. And considering how many there are in each of these, even these tiny jars, I think I've probably got several years' supply here. I also picked up some irregular holographic broken glass paper, which has an interesting effect, but I'm not sure how it could possibly be used. So when I work that out, it'll probably be integrated into a future build, so keep your eyes peeled on that one. And there you go. If you looked at my nails, you wouldn't think I'd just spend so much time working with nail art stuff. But what I've found out is that you can get some new and interesting techniques and products and effects just by going out of the box, as it were, thinking left field and all of those other phrases that people use. There's still some stuff that I didn't get around to purchasing and testing, so there may be a future video where I have a closer look at the temporary tattoo stencils that I found, that I used a couple of this time, that had just been sitting in the bottom of a drawer for no reason. And I'm going to keep my eye out for other items that might be useful for modelling that are used by people doing other hobbies. And when I find any, I'll come back and I'll report them here. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've found something interesting to add to your repertoire. And if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. If you'd like to support Spinny World beyond YouTube, I have a Patreon and I also have a shop. At least one of the items that I've covered today is going to make it into the shop, possibly more as I have a closer look. That's it for now. Thank you, enjoy your modelling, and see you next time.